Usually I'm already recording to begin with, and then I like cut out first time we chatted, but alright, let's get started. Hey, welcome to 42, Two Souls, One Journey, a raw and unedited look into our lives as humans. Based on the 21 grams experience, a scientific study in 1907 by Dr. Duncan MacDougall concluded that the human soul weighs 21 grams. In this videocast, we will explore that no matter what our lives look like on paper, our souls journey similarly. On this episode, I have my friend, my only friend from high school I regularly keep in touch with. We are each other's grandparent namesakes, and she was my date to the Meghan Markle and Prince Harry wedding. It's Mira Fabulous. Well, it's Miriam Ibrahim, but she's so fabulous that it's Mira Fabulous.
Love it. Thank you.
So I feel like our journey, like, I was trying to think of when our souls connected, but I don't even think I have a pinpoint. I just feel like from the first day I met you, we were friends. There was no, like, I feel like there was, you know, like, I feel like in friendship, you're like, oh, there's this one moment where I liked him even better than I did the first time, or like, courted each other. But I'm like, I feel like from the first time you started speaking, I was like, great, this is the person I want to hang out with or talk to.
And you know what's funny is I can't, like, do you remember the very first time we met? Because I'm not sure that I know it was grade 10 because did you went to high school, like you moved over in grade 9, right? You were one of the folks who moved in grade 9? Right. Yeah. So, but I went to a junior high that went 7 to 9 and I showed up in grade 10 right. And there was a couple of people that had already been there, but a lot of us were like, this was brand new. So I know that's when we met, but I don't know, like, I can't remember an exact class or a day or a moment. Just feels like you've been in my life. Yeah.
I have a very specific moment. I feel like, so in my head, I imagine it's like math class. It was math class. It was like the advanced math class. So it was me, Denise LeVay, Priya, Ollie, Jenny Shalambalakis, and then you. Yeah. And you were the only one of that pod who wasn't part of the, like, you didn't come in grade 9, you came in grade 10.
Right.
And I feel like if I was sitting, like, I was so nerd. I loved math. I loved, like, science and math for my chemistry and math for my thing back then. And I think like I feel like the four of us sat in the front, and then like Jenny, and then you were right behind me or something. Like, you were sort of in that, like, and like you were here. I don't know why I feel like you were sat here.
You know what? I think I remember that. I remember Ollie kind of saying, "Oh, this is great. Look, the little smart circle. We're back together again." And I don't know your smart circle, but I'm happy to join you. Like,
and also I feel like if I look back at my history of friendship with those people, like absolutely, I feel like Ollie and I were really great friends at the beginning, but I don't know how Jenny Shalambalakis got into this picture, because I don't remember us ever, like, so, Jenny, if you're hearing this, like, no disrespect.
And it was a different crowd.
Yeah. But like, you know, like, Denise and I used to walk home in school together. like, they were like, when I first came to Henry from Valley Park, they were my first set of friends. So it's just like, anyways, that was my very first memory of you, and I feel like ever since then I don't have like, I feel like that's when we met, and then, like, you were part of the smart circle, you were part of the crew, whatever that crew looked like. I don't think but you were just always a part of it.
It's true. So now that you've, like, surfaced the memory, I remember that moment. I didn't realize it makes sense. That was the first time we met. It's like the first week of class.
And I feel like it was like we were just a bunch of nerds. I think back to high school, like, and I think back, I'm like, all of us were just these, like we didn't have, like, a 90210 experience, or we didn't have any of those things. Like, we were just a collective bunch of nerdy kids who wanted to do well in a academy that was really a public school.
And that's totally cool. Like, I have to say, the one thing I love about my high school experience, and I think we shared it, is that it wasn't a bunch of different cliques. Junior high maybe is a different story. There was a lot of pressure in junior high and self-esteem, like, struggles and whatever. But in high school, like, there wasn't the in crowd or the popular kids. And if you were out there enough, you might have been like a little group on the fringe. But for the most part, everybody was just welcoming and friendly, and, like, it didn't matter what circle you ran in. It wasn't like, oh, those people, we don't talk to them. Like, that was never true.
Unless, Mayor, we were just part of the inner circle and we don't know the fringe people, and so we don't have this experience.
It's true. That's also possible. I don't know. I've never really counted
Yeah.
myself one of the cool kids, but maybe.
Yeah, me neither. I always thought like I was never the cool kid, but like you're right. Maybe we just weren't so infringed out that it didn't matter, or maybe we really were the cool kids that we didn't know. Hmm.
Maybe. If that's
Yeah.
true, then let me just say that the great thing about Henry was that cool kid circle was a really big inclusive circle.
Yeah, and it was a
Which is
smart circle. Like if you look back, like if I feel like if I stalk any of them now, like everybody specifically in our year
Yeah.
did really like when we were nerdy in high school, and then we went ahead and like kept being the same amount of nerds, like overachieving in university, overachieving in our lives. I think of that
changing the
crew.
world. Like we went to school with some really awesome people. I totally
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, which is neat.
Yeah.
So Uncle Mark, who's not really our uncle, but my friend Uncle Mark,
Yeah.
I was speaking to him yesterday, and he's like, "What are you going to talk to Miriam about? Like, what is this conversation?" And I was like, the first thing that comes to mind with you is perceptions and how you are consistently like there's this perception that people have of you, and you're consistently challenging them and like proving them wrong. Like you have, like you're proving them wrong, but you stand really strong in who you are, and I don't know what the right word is, but it's who you are and who you are as a human being. Like
Yeah.
you've from grade 10 until now, you're like, because people are always like, oh, it's Miriam. Like they have this preconceived notion based on what they know of you. But you're like,
Yeah.
I'm consistently this, that hasn't changed in these decades. Even though you've
Yeah.
grown and evolved as a human being, you
Yeah.
had to know who you were from the very get-go. Like I feel like, is that a fair assessment?
I think so. I would say that I've been really lucky to have had really solid relationships. So for example, like I was comfortable being me, and I think who I am has matured and refined and gotten better, hopefully with age.
Agreed.
But yeah.
Just to back you up on, I definitely agreed. Okay.
Yeah. Like we all start out super black and white, and then we kind of melt into the gray and appreciate like the nuance, right?
Right.
But I don't know. I think I was really lucky in that I had multiple circles. So for me, like my faith is a huge part of my life and my reality and my identity. It's an easy thing for people to stereotype. So, right? Like, you remember in high school, sometimes people would call me like Mother Miriam, as in like Mother Superior. Do you remember? Like that was, yeah. And
No.
you know what? It was not maliciously intended, and I
Right.
didn't take it like hurtful in any way. It was like this jokingly light kind of, oh, well, Miriam's never going to go for that. That's Mother Miriam over there, right?
Right.
Like we go, yeah. But like, I think part of the one is I knew it wasn't maliciously intended. It was very much in good humor.
Right.
But two is my faith community is also a big part of my life. And so growing up and going to youth group and having like a solid group of like my good friends coming from that camp made it easier for me to be okay with representing myself for who I was at school, because, and again, we were lucky, like we went to a school where that was totally cool.
Yeah.
There wasn't anybody who was like, that's not cool and you need to be different, right? Junior high, the whole other story, but in high school, everybody was like, you do you, man, that's awesome. And we were pretty ahead of the curve, let me tell you. Like, hashtag you do you was not a term back in like the 90s when we were in high school.
No.
But that's absolutely kind of where everybody came from. And so I think those two things made it easier for me to just be okay with who I am. But I think you're right. Like, I think because certain parts of my life are so important to me, faith being one of them,
Right.
I have consistently been met with people assuming stereotypes about me, right?
No, I mean, I think we can, sorry, finish. I know.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I was just going to say, and that's something that I've had to kind of work through and deal with throughout. Actually, I think it's something that still, even today, I don't know. I guess that says something about me, that it's easy for people to kind of attach a stereotype to me at first.
Yeah.
And then hopefully by getting to know me and kind of interacting with me, they recognize that life is never that black and white. So there's a lot of good like nuance in this that makes it come out looking a little different. Yeah.
No, 100%. I feel like there's so many examples in just our lives, right? Like, I feel like this is a great idea of like the two soul, like our souls are so interconnected in so many ways. As we get older, we explore those. But like on paper, right? We're like, oh, Miriam, like Christian girl from Egypt, strict, gay Muslim guy. Like you don't feel like those worlds never supposed to collide. Yeah. Like on paper, like we should be at war with each other at this point.
Right.
Because apparently our beliefs are different. We like our categories are mixed, but our friendship has like outproven any of that. And I feel like in any moment of my life, I can look back and be like, oh yeah, I did. Like, I think of fun stuff like getting on a bus, going all the way downtown to buy used clothing from a used clothing store. You were on the bus with me on that one.
Totally. We went to Kensington, right? And I was like, I've never been here before. What is this place? Are you sure it's safe? Like,
which, by the way, people, is a theme in our lives. I seem to take Miriam to places where she doesn't think it's safe, but still trusts me to come there, and then we have a great experience.
I do. So in all fairness, part of that, to your point, is because our souls are connected.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't trust just anybody with something that, like, but I trust you with my safety. Right. Like, I trust that you might push me to like experience something that's new, but you won't push me to a place that's dangerous.
Ooh,
right?
I like that. Yeah.
So you know what's a great example of that, which is kind of funny, and Kensington reminded me. Do you remember when we went to the Halloween, I don't know, parade? It's not a parade, like in the village where they have like everybody come out in costume and da-da. And I will be honest, I'm quite conservative. Like that's my nature. And so I was kind of like, Chef, I don't know, like, is any part of this going to make me uncomfortable? And you were like, Mary, you're fine. And I was like, okay. I was like, but I'm going to trust you that if something's like not a good fit, or it's going to be too much for me and overwhelming, like, please, let's not kind of dive into that. And it was the funnest night because some of the costumes and the makeup and we just had a blast going. But I remember, I don't know if you remember this, and now that we're saying it and it's being recorded, it's going to be permanently on record. But do you remember, I remember we were walking, I don't know, church, one street, and you grabbed my hand and you tugged, and I was like, Chef, I'm in heels, like I can't run. Why are we suddenly moving so fast? And the next thing I know, I got like a whip to my behind, and I was like, oh, this is why we're moving fast. Okay, run in the heels, run.
Oh my God. Yeah, of course. That day is one of my most, I think this is so telling of our friendship. It's one of my most favorite days because you came. So for people who don't know, so Toronto has a church on Wellesley Street, and during Halloween, they block it off. And it's just people come in costumes, and it becomes this big event where, like all people, like people who have never done drag before will come into drag, and like it's almost like it's like a mini Pride, but not. It's a mini Pride. It's a mini Pride, and
I would say that it's maybe a little bit more tamer than Pride. Like it's
right, because it's later in the year and it's too cold for people to come naked.
Right.
Completely naked.
That's the funny thing, because I was like, I remember saying to you very clearly, I was like, listen, Shafiq, like, are my poor virgin eyes gonna have a problem? And you were like, oh, don't worry, Mary, it's too cold for that.
Is that what I said? Because I feel like that's so not the truth. I would have been like, in my head, I feel like I remember that moment, and I was like, Mare, I can't promise you, but I don't think it's gonna be too bad.
No, like, it's too cold for that.
And was it? Like, did we see anything that was
I don't think we saw, no, we saw a
nudity.
couple of, like, obviously lots of people in drag, which is fabulous because they look so good. I remember us arguing over whether one of the folks in drag was actually male or female.
Right.
And I was like, no, that's a woman. And then we took a photo and I said, thank you. And the response was, you're welcome. And I was like, oh, not a woman.
So that was the year Priscilla Queen of the Desert was, like, Priscilla was kind of the stage at Mirvish, and they were promoting it. So it was a very fabulous drag queen in a Priscilla costume. So it was like beautiful. The makeup, everything was phenomenal.
Breathtaking. And actually earlier that same day,
right,
because you sometimes will help other folks with their drag makeup, you'll remember that somebody came over and you helped with not just the drag makeup, like all of it, right? The makeup, the hair, they got into their outfit, like, it was kind of neat. Like, I actually appreciated the inside view to just how much work it takes for that transformation. But it was, so that's what happened earlier in the day. And then at night we went down for like I don't know what to call it. It's not even a parade. It was just like a Halloween street party, maybe. Like,
oh, good. Yeah. A Halloween street party sounds exactly right. Yeah. It took us, like, I think his name was David / Melody. He'd come over and like, I remember it was one of my first people to do makeup on. It took like 2 or 3, it took 2 hours. I feel like you got there early,
Yeah.
we were gonna
Wow.
have dinner, and then it just took a really long time to get him ready. Or
Yeah.
get him right. Yeah. And I remember he came 2 nights in a row. Like I feel like he came the night before and then he came back again because he needed extra
Wow.
makeup, which is great for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a like,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like, were we sure we were gonna go down or not even? Anyway, I
You know
think
what?
that,
No, we weren't sure what we were going to do for the day.
right,
You know what I loved about that, and something that like really opened my eyes and I learned from watching David, become Melody,
right,
is that David as a person and as a persona and as a character makes it sound fake. I don't mean it that way, but like who he
right,
was very clear, had a very clear set of parameters. And then Melody, who walked out at the end of it, was a totally different person, a different set of parameters, like it was kind of neat because I always before that, I think, had kind of assumed that like it's just a guy with makeup on. Like that sounds super, my apologies because that just sounds so basic, it's ridiculous. But I really thought of it more as layering on as opposed to the opportunity to really embrace something that's totally different, right? Yeah.
no, 100%. I feel like you're right. Like in drag transformation, right? People sort of come in and like whoever they are as the person they are, right? But there's something about that extra layer of make, and I always call that makeup as like clown facing. Like you just put on, you put lashes on, like a different persona. And I know for me, a different persona comes out, or used to come out, and now they've blended. It's like my Beyonce and my Sasha Fierce, and now like it's just one human because both sides are in me.
Right.
And the makeup at that earlier in stage of my life, that makeup just gave me the extra pump to be like more sassy or whatever. Yeah.
It can also be kind of like armor, right? Like it protects you because it creates a barrier and an outlet for that kind of persona. Yeah.
I mean, so you've never done drag, but in like, I pushed Miriam to put lashes on and like go a little extra in her makeup. Like this is Miriam's regular makeup face. Chapstick, eyeliner.
Yeah.
And it's been for decades.
That's all you've got. Yeah.
And she's got like her skin is phenomenal, so she can get away with that.
Oh, you're very kind.
But we've gotten to points where we've gone out for events and I'm like, okay, great, Miriam, you've just let me do your makeup. And like, like, did you ever feel in those moments? So let's go back to, because this post just came up for us. It was 3 years ago when we went to the gala. And was that the first time you wore lashes?
First time I wore lashes. Yeah.
And so did you feel another persona come out?
One of the only times I wore lashes. No, but you know what I find tricky about that, if I'm being totally honest, is like I've had other people do my makeup a couple times, and you've never really done like a full makeup for me. You've always been like, why don't you add a little of this, or the lashes like that you totally did for me. And I love the way that it looks, but it's foreign enough that I don't know how to replicate it on my own. So like if I was, I don't know, some kind of very selfish, independently wealthy person, I'd literally just have a team. I'm like, you come do the lashes, you come do the hair, you come do the, because I can't do that, but I like the outcome. So come.
So a little makeup trick is that if you go to Sephora and buy, like you can sign up for a makeup tutorial or makeup trial.
Yeah.
And if you buy a product from them. So most makeup counters will, you have to sign up ahead of time. So say you're going out to an event somewhere, you're like, hey, you sign up to go get your makeup done that day, and all you have to do is buy a product from them.
Right.
That you like. So
hopefully is one of the things they use that you like. And
yeah. And I mean, and if you do mascara or you do something like simple like eyeliner, that's a great purchase. So you don't need a full team if you feel like you just want to go.
Options. There are some options for occasions. Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to be your full team if we're in Toronto, but like,
take it, man. But you live it. Yeah, we're like we're far enough apart now that's not a quick trip. Yeah.
I mean, also our life, like we're fortunate enough to be adults in this stage in life that if you want to come visit me, you can, like, when the world opens up,
it's doable.
Pandemic, it's doable, right? Like, it's not something like a 2-hour flight to Toronto is under $200, which sometimes is what we spend at dinner and alcohol, right? Which is like, we're lucky to be in this stage in life.
In a position where we can make these kinds of choices. Yeah.
And I fully expect you to come to Winnipeg at some point. Just for
so like I'm maybe one of the few people that's actually been to Winnipeg on vacation because I have friends. And okay, so in all fairness, I have not gone in the dead of winter. I appreciate that as a different experience. But most of the time, like what I love about being somewhere is the people that I'm with. So I have wonderful like memories and experiences of Winnipeg, and I will happily come and visit you.
Yay.
And we can go to I don't even know if it exists anymore, but the Club Regent is a casino down there that, like, I think we were there for 5 hours. I spent 25 cents. It was just the most fun ever. They had a pirate and a parrot and this bridge you walked under, which was actually like Ripley's aquarium style fish tank with tropical, like, it was just awesome. Yeah.
Okay, done. I feel like that's our plan. I don't even know if it exists because I'm here during a pandemic state, so things are smaller. But I hear it's amazing in summer when it's done. Yeah. That'll be our.
So the other thing we'll have to do together, and it hasn't worked as well anywhere else, but my friend Pete taught me this. He's from Winnipeg. Is Purple City. So you got to go down to the Parliament buildings.
Okay.
And they have these yellow lights that shine onto the Parliament building. And what you do is you stare into that light without blinking for as long as you can. And then as soon as you feel like you're about to blink, you look up, and what you'll see is it turns all of the white lights. And this is, I mean, scientifically, it's because you just fatigued the cones in your eyes, right? And so you're pulling out the different components of the spectrum of light. But you look up and the whole city looks like it's bathed in a little purple haze.
Ooh.
And it's beautiful. And then, if I remember it correctly, there's a bunch of beautiful, like, old looking lampposts in a row. And so they shine a little extra bright and they're all kind of lined up. It feels like something out of like a fantasy movie. It's really neat.
Oh my God, no, done. I feel like.
Yeah. Purple City, gotta do it.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds so prince-ish, but also, like, I feel like our grade 10 science nerds came out where we're like, oh, like, you do this, but it's because the cones in your eye. Like, here's the science behind it.
Just so I can explain, there is some science here, but here's the output of that.
and people, we don't recommend you do it regularly because once you burn those pieces, it's not good. Yeah. Once is fine,
I will
not
say
regularly.
I learned this as a teenager. I did it once, but it was pretty fun.
Okay, done. Yeah, done. Purple City sounds so princess, like, not princess, but prince-esque. You know, like Purple Rain. Yeah.
We could bring a soundtrack. It's all good. Yeah.
And we will. I mean, I think this is the best part of our friendship is, like, no matter where we go and, like, whatever it is, it's always, there's always the best time. Like, even, so Mira and I have this tradition that we started maybe 7-8 years ago where we do, so I, being a Muslim, was always curious about how to, like, what does Christmas look like and what does the Christmas Eve look like? And so obviously I was like, I'm going to call my most Christian friend and say, my most Christian friend who will teach me and educate me on what's happening and not just be like, come look at the colors. And so we did Christmas, and we ended up at some church, some very urban church in Toronto near the Eden Center.
First year? No, that was our second year. The first year we did Timothy, because we've done it now for a ton of years. And every year the entourage changes and grows a little bit. So there was one point, I think we went to St. Mike's, and it was, I think I was the only practicing Christian. And then what was the entourage? Like 6 or 7 gay men? Like,
Again, bringing stereotypes that Christian women don't hang out with gay men.
Right? Totally. But I think, so the first year we did Timothy Eaton because they had the bells and you could sing carols with them outside. Do you remember that?
Of course, yeah.
That's really cool. And then the urban church. So I have to tell you, I had a very spiritual experience at that one behind the Eaton Center.
Yeah.
So it was a Spanish English, right? And they were doing half and half. They had like hot chocolate and empanadas. It was really cool. Yeah. The way they did communion is a way I'd never experienced before, where we all stood around in a circle. Do you remember?
Yeah. And they had the Mary knocking on the doors, and we had to play the people who we would, I don't know what the right term. We were like, no, you can't come in. Yeah, like at the end. Yeah, it was very experiential for me. Very different. Yeah.
But do you remember? So it's tucked in right behind the Eaton Center.
Yes.
And we were there, and a homeless gentleman came in.
Yes.
And he sat right next to me. I don't know if you remember. So
I remember.
He was a little bit like unhygienic, so he had a bit of a fragrance, and he had his tall boy can in a brown paper bag. Like, obviously had a good amount to drink and was continuing. And he made me really uncomfortable when he came in. Right. And I kept kind of shifting in my seat. And finally you turned to me and you were like, Mary, you're about to end up in my lap. Like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm sorry, I just need a little space. But I had such a spiritual moment because we were singing and we were trying to sing in Spanish, which I don't speak Spanish. And so we were kind of struggling a bit. And he turned to me and he said, well, you just have a lovely voice, dear. And I didn't expect it. I did not see it coming from somebody that just like only his presence made me uncomfortable, which is a horrible judgment on my part, right? And I was like, oh, thank you. And I just in that moment had this epiphany of like, this is exactly what Christmas and Christianity is supposed to be about, right? Like Jesus, Mary, they were unwanted. They were right. Like there's no room at the inn. Go stay in the stable. Like, and Jesus came to love everybody and to offer hope and future. And I was like, oh my gosh, so here I am being all self-righteous in my celebration and not actually living the faith, which is why I celebrate this. And this gentleman and him complimenting me gave me that opportunity to right-size that and be like, oh man, I got to change my attitude. Like the way I was thinking was so not okay. And it was just such a great opportunity for God to kind of tug at my heartstrings and say, no, that's not who I called you to be. Like, appreciate somebody who loves him like I love him and see him like I see him. That's what I'm calling you to be. So it's kind of a cool moment. Yeah.
That's so great that you like. I feel like usually when we reflect on that moment, it's this funny moment that this man like we
Right.
reflect on it and it's like what how he was so uncomfortable and like and how funny that moment was. But it's so nice to hear that like people have perceptions of who you are and what you're supposed to be. And this gentleman, based on what was happening in his life,
Yeah.
and again, I think now X amount of years later, like having gone through living downtown, all that kind of stuff, like that was somebody just having a day, like this, like this man was just living his life and being the soul was just journeying through this earth, doing what he had to, and I think this pandemic's been such a great example of that. Like people are just doing their best they can, and we have these preconceived notions about things based on whatever it is and what we've been taught, what we've been grown up in. But the fact that like really at the end of the day, we're just the same soul, just being that same moment, right? Like, and we don't know. You're right. He was a kind man. Like I don't remember. Like I think it was
there's nothing he did that was disruptive. It's not like he came in yelling and screaming. It's not like he was like "F you, baby Jesus." Like
no, he came to church to be a part of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I feel it's so like this year I was hanging out with a friend of mine who was homeless for a couple of years, and I hadn't connected with him before, but I ran into him on the street, and he had finally just got his own home, and he was explaining things, like he was explaining the downtown Toronto homeless scene to me, and it's such a community, and I think I've never been in that scene, but it was great to meet somebody who I knew for over a decade, who I had a relationship with, who explained it to me, and this, not just the struggles, but like he looked at it in a very different way. Like he was like, it's almost a community downtown where like they look out for each other. They're like, great, if you want a great shower, here's where you need to go. Like if you like, you can actually survive in Toronto with being homeless, but knowing where to go get a bed, where to get food, and they just sort of look out for it. Like people look out for each other there. And in the pandemic, when those things closed, it was tough. Like I know he had finally gotten his own home, but it was really hard for him to be like, oh my God, like I have other friends out there who have nowhere to go. And I don't know. I feel like he volunteered he volunteered his apartment to come, even though there was a pandemic and you weren't allowed to be next to people, but they had nowhere else. Like his friends had nowhere else to go, and he was lucky enough to have that space and then share it with them. And I was like, oh my God, I had a full apartment to myself that I did not want anybody else to come into. Not even my own family, especially not my own family.
Anyway, my cocoon. Yeah.
Right. But like the pandemic shed such great light on these things, right? That you're like, oh wait, we're all just humans. We're just in a human body traveling and figuring things out.
Totally. And we all at our core want the same things, right? We want to be accepted. We want to be able to like just be who we are and have that be okay and be loved.
Yeah.
Everything else is gravy, but at our core, like that's what we're all looking for.
And I think like security, I think like we're lucky that we have the security of like family, friends, a home, and that kind of stuff is important for people who don't have it. And it's such a basic, like everybody should just have a home to be secure or feel secure. They don't have to have a home, but a place where they can feel secure. And it's so sad when they don't.
Yeah. I think that's also one of the reasons I would say that you and I are so connected, because you are one of maybe a handful of people in my life where I can totally just be me, and I can ask a question out of ignorance because my intention is to learn and to understand and not be afraid that in asking the question, the response is like, I'm going to get a backlash from it because I know that you know that I'm genuinely curious.
Right.
And I think it goes both ways too, right? Like when you ask me questions about faith or whatever the topic is, because we like, we can see into each other, right? And so that makes, like, you are a safe person for me. And I can be like, this is kind of a crazy question and I've been afraid to ask anybody else.
Right.
What does this mean? Or what do you think about da-da-da? Or right? Like, but that's important. Like, yeah.
No, I think we're very lucky to have each other that way, because I feel the same way. Like I wouldn't have, like the first person I thought of going, like I have lots of friends who are Christians, who are practicing Christian, like not lots, but people who've been in the Christian faith. They may not be practicing, but you're the first person I thought of. I was like, I'm going to take Mira because like it's going to feed my soul, but also my inquisitive mind, and I know I'll have a great time with you. Like we'll even, because I feel like we ended up at Evening because we wanted to go somewhere else to see baby animals, but they closed at 6. So
we still haven't done that. That was like
haven't.
the criteria I put in year one. I was like, I would like to see live animals at a nativity. I've never done that. We still haven't done that.
No, but it's on. But like that's great, because that means that every other Christmas we get to try to find that.
I find it. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But that was like, I knew that, like I feel like I was like, great, I'm gonna go with Miriam. I'm gonna learn all these things, and like it's gonna feed both my curiosity, my science, and my creativity, because all of that, like you embody all those things. You're always like, you're not just a science brain, but you're a creative science brain. So you know, like you're like, I'm gonna be a doc, like like you don't. You tackle a problem with your brain and your heart, and then with your foundation of your religion, which is such a great triangle of you. I mean, that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Thanks. That's definitely my the way I want, what I want to be true. So I'm glad that that's what's coming out. Yeah.
Oh, 110%. So here's some of the questions that I don't think I know about you, so I'm going to ask them. What's the funniest thing you've done today?
The funniest thing I've done today?
Yeah.
Okay. So I for my job, I end up in meetings basically back to back. I don't have opportunities to take breaks to go to the bathroom or for food. But I've been having a problem with my work phone. And so it's gotten really bad today, which is okay because a new one came in the post actually at 5 o'clock. So we'll resolve that quickly. But I kept getting dropped from calls that I was on, and it would often, like one hour call, I got dropped 3 times. And it, like, I would be trying to say something and the phone would just hang up on me. And so what I did in that call, because it happens so often, is I turned on my video and I picked up the phone and I was like, so, and I was the only person that put the video on. So a couple other people turned their videos on and they were like, it's okay. Like, we got you. It's like, I think that was pretty funny. Like, it was a good way to express, like, I'm frustrated. I apologize. Phone. And added just a bit of comic relief into a long day.
I mean, your life, as long as I've known you, like productivity and being focused and moving forward is your game. Like, you are amazing at it no matter where you are. Like, from grade 10 to now, like you're in it to win it 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
So the fact that you don't go to the bathroom, I think, is insane. I don't like you. You are human. Yeah. People need to know you can go to the bathroom. You should just be like we need to have some. Yeah. Right. What's the meanest thing you've ever done?
Oh, the meanest thing I've ever done. So what popped into my head right away is when I was in grade 4, maybe grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, somewhere in there. Maybe grade 4. Anyways, I was running in the playground at recess or at lunch, and I tripped over the, you know, those cement blocks that block a car from going past, like its spot.
Yeah.
So I tripped over it and I landed super hard and I hurt myself. And this older boy came running up and he was like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, yep, I'm fine. Thank you. Like, thank you. And then later, when my teacher, the principal, my mom, somebody asked me like what happened. And I was embarrassed to say I tripped. So I said that boy tripped me. Right? Is that not the most horrible thing ever? I mean, you did ask the meanest thing you've ever done, and I am being super honest. And I don't know why. Like, I think about it now, and he was so kind, total stranger. Like, it's not like this kid was my friend. And why I would be embarrassed that I tripped, like, it's just such a weird, I don't know, I haven't fully unpacked it psychologically, but and I don't think he got in trouble or anything, like, thank God.
Right.
It didn't turn into like, oh, that kid got suspended because you said blah, 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 big fat liar. It's not what happened. But yeah, I think that's for sure the meanest thing I've ever done.
Oh my God, that completely sounds so not you. Like, I feel like the first part you're like, I'm fine, thank you. So Miriam.
Yeah.
But for you to like, one, for you to lie, two, for you to like,
and
because of
throw
embarrassment.
Him under the bus? Like, come on, this poor kid who was doing a nice thing. Like,
yeah, do you remember who it is?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I can't, like, yeah, I don't.
Right.
I don't, because it must have been grade 4 because I only went to that school for a year, but I don't know. Like, it's just horrible, right?
I mean, it's what kids do in grade 4 or 5. It's like,
Yeah.
You were a young person at that point. And I feel like I can't imagine you repeated that ever again in life. Like, I feel like that would have been a big lesson for you to not repeat lying ever again or throwing people under the bus.
I have to tell you that I have never, ever told that story before.
Well, here it is now, live on YouTube.
This is my first time sharing my shame. This is my shame. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing it with me. And whoever else is going to listen to this.
It was a good question. Thanks for asking the tough one. Yeah.
What are your top 3 insecurities?
Oh. Okay, top 3 insecurities. Man. Hello, internet world that doesn't know me. Welcome to the scariest parts of myself. So I think one is that I'm not lovable.
Okay.
2 is that my only value is what I offer other people. So as long as there's benefit to somebody else, then that's like why somebody would engage with me, because I'm not lovable. Like, they're kind of connected, which is awful. And my 3rd insecurity would probably be I'm not sure. I need to think about that a little more. Maybe something in the realm of like I'm a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, I'm actually not capable, but have to kind of act like I am, and I'm totally going to fall on my face.
Wow. I mean, thank you for going deep on those. Like, that's I appreciate that. Yeah.
What do you usually get? Like, well, I wish I was prettier. Like, what?
No, all my friends are real. Like,
yeah.
I feel like I'm really lucky that my friends just go right in.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, you're asked the question, you're get ready for it.
Here it is. Yeah. You asked, here's the answer. I wouldn't share if you hadn't asked.
And I feel like this is the fun part, right? Like the things I don't know about people, like friends I've had friendships with for so long, that this allows me, like, we get to ask this question. Like, I would have never known what the meanest thing you did was. I would never even imagine it because it's not in my realm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How would you answer that insecurities question? Can I ask you? Like, is that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the imposter syndrome is always there for me. Like, I feel like I'm like, oh, I don't think, like, I'm pretending, and one day someone's going to catch me pretending, but they never do. Or like, not that they never do, but I feel like maybe that's, like, it's not true. Like, we work really hard at who we are, and like, because we've known each other for so long, and through like teenage hormones to where we are. Yeah. And I think like we work so hard trying to be who we are, but we evolve as human beings so much. Like, I think we're consistently evolving, that it's not imposter, but I think we question and we challenge so quickly that we've outgrown the other person. We have outgrown that other version of us, like, so quickly that we're just becoming who we are, I think. Like, I think, especially in my 40s, I've come to a point where I'm like, that imposter syndrome doesn't exist anymore, because like whatever all this learning was pre-40s is now just going to showcase itself. So yeah, my insecurities are, I mean, I think a lot of times like masculinity, like I'm always like, oh, am I masculine enough? Is that like being a queer kid growing up in South Asia, like a gay man growing up in Muslim South Asian family with very macho men. I'm always like, am I always enough? And I don't, like, I feel like, it's such a, it's a tough one.
So that's such a good one, because I'll tell you one of maybe not my top 3, but one of my other insecurities, or things that I always stress about maybe, is that I'm not feminine enough. which is kind of funny. I'm a cisgender, like straight woman, right?
Right.
In case that wasn't clear, but like I worry because I'm tall, I'm large, I'm big boned, and I'm like, I want to be feminine. Like I value that, and I worry that that's not what, because in my head, feminine is the petite girls that got to sit in the front row in the school photos that, guys will be like, oh, I could flick you with my one hand and da da da. Meanwhile, if I if I hug you, I might knock you over. So
which is so funny because for me, I'm almost like, Mare, like you embody a supermodel. You just have to own it and move forward, right? Like I'm always like, you're like, I'm too tall. I'm like, oh my God, get 6 inches heels and let people like, it's such a like,
that's why
I see you so differently.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I was like, Chef, I can't wear heels. He's like, whatever, put your heels on. I was like, okay.
Wow. Oh, well, new thing.
And I couldn't run and didn't evade the whip. So, there's pros and cons.
Right. I think the whip had to happen because it was a moment for us to be like, oh, like.
Yeah. I have to be honest, things I didn't think I'd be crossing off my bucket. It wasn't on my bucket list. Things I didn't expect to be crossing off a list of experiences was being whipped. But
well, I'm glad I got to be a part of that or introduce that into your I can hold that as a badge of honor. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So our 41 minutes are over and I still have like 14 other things to ask you. I know. Yeah. So we'll obviously have to do a round 2 because this is so fun. So to wrap up the podcast, I'm going to throw a word at you and you just throw the first word that comes to you in mind.
Okay.
Right back. Okay.
Okay.
Love.
Hate.
Light.
Ooh, life.
Jesus.
Love.
Oh, soul.
Heavenly.
Ooh, music.
Joy.
Teta.
Oh, Teta. Love.
One of the questions I didn't get to ask you was, how do you choose love? And like, it's such a, we're going to go over, fuck it. Like, it's such a guiding principle of who you are. You, in any situation, and also you choose love no matter what. I've seen you do it. I've seen you, like, someone said something wrong with you or bad to you, like, you'll sit in there, you're like, no, there's love behind that. Like, you have this innate ability to make sure you find love and move forward in love. How do you do that?
Oh, you know what? I don't know that I've ever recognized that. So thank you. I don't know. I think part of it, honestly, Chef, is because, and I'm going to get a little bit spiritual on you, but part of it is because God's Holy Spirit lives inside me, and that is the reality of God, right? Like, the Bible tells us, and I believe this so firmly, that that Jesus, like God loved us so much that he sacrificed his son for us, right? And it even says, this is how we know what love is that while we were yet still sinners, Christ died for us. So the idea there is like, the love I've received is not love I deserve, but man, does it make me a better person? And so what right do I have to withhold that love from somebody else because I've decided they do or don't deserve it?
Like, we can never end this any better. Like, this embodies everything who you are, and it makes like it's who you are, and this makes sense. And this is why our souls connect so easily, like connect so much, is that it's based in always trying to find. I think I don't always act from love, but I always try to find it. And I think you embody always having to act from that because your higher power, Jesus, guides you that way. And you've been, in our friendship, in every hardship and everything, you've always shown that. So thank you for that. And I love you for that.
You. I love you too so much. I feel so blessed.
Ditto.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking time out of your busy day to tune in to us as our souls connected and chatted. Listen to us next week for another opportunity to explore this journey we call humans. Okay, bye.
Bye.